Hi, hello everyone, welcome back to a new video on this channel. Today I'm going to be analyzing how sneakers changed ITZY's career, and the clear before and after in their trajectory. So with nothing more to say, let's get started. To give a bit of context, ITZY debuted in 2019 with 𝒉𝒍𝒍𝒐. It was an extremely anticipated debut, since they were the first girl group JYP would debut after Twice. Expectations were incredibly high, and even so, the debut surpassed everything that was expected, immediately becoming one of the most successful debuts in recent K-pop history. The song reached number 2 on the JN Digital chart, and on the Billboard K-pop Hot 100 in South Korea. The music video set a record for the most views in 24 hours for a K-pop group debut MV with over 17 million views, and it won 9 trophies on Korean music shows, including a Triple Crown. On top of that, 𝒉𝒍𝒍𝒐 stayed strong on the charts for months and eventually achieved streaming certification, something very uncommon for a debut song at that time. And not only that, after 𝒉𝒍𝒍𝒐 they released ITZY and wannabe, forming the trio of songs that completely defined the group's first era. Everyone had heard at least one of these tracks, and ITZY quickly became the girl group of the moment. Wannabe in particular had a massive cultural impact, going viral thanks to its choreography and message, and solidifying ITZY's image as a group with a very clear and recognizable identity. Thanks to this streak, they won Rookie of the Year awards in an almost indisputable way, achieving a Rookie Grand Slam, and positioning themselves as leaders of the new generation. This early success set very high expectations for everything that would come next, something that would later play a crucial role in how their future releases were perceived. After this initial peak, they released Not Shy and In the Morning. Both comebacks had strong physical sales and charted decently, proving that the fandom was still growing and very solid. However, looking back, these are songs that aged rather quickly and failed to achieve the same lasting impact or cultural presence as their earlier releases, especially when it comes to digital performance. Loco was quite well loved by fans and had a strong initial impact, with good sales and a positive reception within the fandom. Nevertheless, as the weeks went by, its performance started to decline, and from this era onward a clear drop in digital results became noticeable, marking a turning point in the group's trajectory. ITZY was still selling well thanks to their loyal fanbase, but they were no longer dominating the digital landscape or the general conversation like they did in their early years, not because of anything specific, since the songs were still good, but by 2021 the competition for attention was much fiercer, with other fourth-generation groups like aespa, ITZY, and STAYC hitting their peak popularity at the same time and drawing a lot of public focus. And then 𝒉𝒏𝒏𝒏 arrived, with very intriguing teaser photos that showcased an elegant and royal concept, which had many fans excited because it felt very different from anything they had released before. But the more promotional content that came out for the comeback, the more confused people became, as the concept shifted from an intense and girl crush image to a colorful and youthful aesthetic, which wasn't entirely new for them but felt jarring. It clashed seeing two such different concepts representing the same song. Many felt the concept was poorly communicated, as if two separate comebacks had been merged into one. And when the song was finally released, it felt like the marketing promised something that the track itself did not deliver. Sneakers was closer in spirit to their debut sound, but it was perceived as childish and overly simple. The repetitive chorus and lyrics telling you to put your sneakers on were heavily criticized, and this release ended up becoming one of the most divisive moments in ITZY's career, setting the stage for the shift in public perception that followed. People were so confused that a Twitter thread even went viral explaining why Sneakers could not possibly be the title track. It was all hidden theories and cope from the fandom because they genuinely did not like the song, and were hoping everything would turn out to be a strategy leading to a bop with the concept that had been promised. ITZY had evolved over those 4 years of their career toward a more mature image, and all of that built identity was suddenly broken by a song that felt like it belonged in a sneaker commercial. Looking back, JYP probably saw that even though ITZY was experiencing steady organic growth with their releases, their debut era had achieved their strongest results, so they decided to test whether their original concept could still work, and for the Korean public, it actually did. 𝒉𝒏𝒏𝒏𝒏 became a million seller. Sneakers reached the top 5 on Korean digital charts, and they won several music shows. In Korea the song was seen as catchy, and it resonated with the general public. Internationally, however, it was viewed as a flop and a regression because it clashed heavily with the group's established narrative of maturity. But this should not have been a career-ending issue, Every group has one or two eras where the song is not well received, and they still manage to bounce back and remain highly successful. Yet for ITZY, Sneakers marked a clear before and after in how the public perceived them. It was not only seen as a bad song, but it turned into a joke across K-pop Twitter and Reddit. Everyone agreed that the track was not good, so criticizing it became an easy way to gain likes and engagement, creating a snowball of negativity that ITZY could not easily escape. While other groups were having hits and praising them brought interactions, dragging ITZY in Sneakers was what was trending at the time, and because ITZY had such a dominant past, any stumble was magnified and framed as a major downfall. As a result, ITZY went from setting the pace of the industry to chasing it, which deeply changed their position in the fourth-generation narrative. They quickly came back with their album 𝒉𝒍𝒍𝒐, which once again tried to appeal to the international audience, but by that point the international public was no longer interested in ITZY, and many people insisted on saying that the song was just as bad as Sneakers, and honestly it felt like no one actually listened to the song to decide whether they liked it or not. It seemed more convenient to repeat the narrative that ITZY was no longer what they used to be, and that they were now only releasing bad music, which was simply not true. Now I think we are all aware that 𝒉𝒍𝒍𝒐 is a good song, and that it represents ITZY very well, but it came and went without impact. No one really cared. After that they released Cake, which was once again heavily criticized, yet it marked ITZY's best-selling album to date. It seemed like the fans were still there to support them, but no one outside the fandom was paying attention. Following this, 𝒉𝒆 went on hiatus, and they released the mini-album Born to Be with only 4 members, where the narrative split in 2 directions. On one side people insulting 𝒉𝒆, and saying the group was much better without her because tracks like Mr. Vampire and Untouchable had better international reception than Cake, 𝒉𝒍𝒍𝒐, and Sneakers. And on the other side a part of the fandom claiming that ITZY was completely declining and out of control, and that without 𝒉𝒆 their weaknesses were even more noticeable. At that point, what could be observed was that people were starting to trust ITZY's musical quality again, at least a little, but then 𝒉𝒆 returned and they released Gold, a song that many considered empty and lacking strong appeal. This became the first comeback in their history to not get a single music show win. Unfortunately the following release did not perform well either, which was Girls Will Be Girls, and their most recent comeback Tunnel Vision has explored new sounds and finally managed to secure a win after 2 years. Overall, this period really shows how much public perception can outweigh actual musical quality, and how once a narrative is set, it can be extremely hard for a group to fully escape it even when they are still delivering solid work. So then, we could say that Sneakers really did cause significant damage to their career, but more than the song itself, it was everything surrounding it. On one hand there was a very poor promotional strategy from JYP. I genuinely do not know who thought it was a good idea to release concept teaser photos that were so different from what the song actually was. But honestly this alone is not that serious, and it does not justify the image decline of a group that had been the most famous of their generation. In their loss of popularity there is a much bigger factor, which is that people were simply no longer interested in ITZY. They preferred not to stan them, and so they did not, and Sneakers became the perfect excuse. In the end, Sneakers did not destroy ITZY by itself. Rather it exposed a moment where the public narrative and expectations had already shifted. The group still has a strong fandom, impressive sales, and undeniable talent, and even though that era left a mark on their image, it also taught them how to navigate public attention and adapt to a constantly changing market. ITZY is still strong. And this is only one chapter in their story, not the ending, I am sure of that.
And this has been all. I hope you like it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did, it would help me a lot. See ya.